Good evening, everyone. My name is Anita Plummer. I'm an Associate Professor of African Studies, and I serve as Executive Director of the Center for Women, Gender, and Global Leadership. So welcome. I want to start by saying welcome to our students and faculty, and to Mr. Bobi Wine. Welcome back to the Mecca. We hosted Bobi Wine on April 27, 2023. Then he came and shared with us the actual cost of resistance. He came bearing the marks of state violence against him, against his family, against everyone around him who dared to imagine a different future for Uganda. At that time, he shared with us his struggles and those of tens of millions of Ugandans. But what struck me was the power, determination, and focus that he had. Despite everything happening, he came to Howard anyway. He came to talk, he came to listen, he came to engage with our students, especially thinking through, among other things, what Pan-Africanism means in moments of intense crises. Bobi Wine's struggle isn't just about elections or parties or who holds office. It's a fundamental question about what governments are for and what do they owe the people they govern, especially the most marginalized, especially the young. The Ugandan state's response to Bobi Wine, the imprisonment, the torture, the targeting of his wife and children, is a violent statement. And Bobi Wine's persistence, his refusal to disappear, is a counterstatement. It says to Uganda, to Africa, and the rest of the world that radical reimagination of our institutions is imperative. Many of you have probably seen Bobi Wine, the People's President. It's the Oscar-nominated Peabody Award-winning film that documented his movement. That film did something crucial for global consciousness. It refused to let the world see Uganda's politics as a settled question. It reframed African politics as a foregone conclusion, with people merely existing as passive victims. It made visible the complexity and legitimacy of a youth-led movement demanding democratic voice, freedom, dignity, and the right to prosper. I'm very much looking forward to the discussion. I hope we gain a better understanding of the situation in Uganda, especially over the past 6 months, and of course, to discuss what better alternatives look like. On behalf of the Department of African Studies, we welcome you and thank you, especially Mr. Wine, for your sacrifice and vision. I want to take a moment to thank the leadership of ASGSA, that's the African Studies Graduate Student Association, Miranda Rivers, Innocent Ekajioga, and last but not least, Kamosho Andrew. Thank you for organizing this. I want to extend a special gratitude to Mr. Milton Alamadi of the Black Star News for reconnecting us. Without further delay, I present Mr. Bobi Wine and Mr. Milton Alamadi. Thank you.
Greetings, sisters and brothers, friends, students. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to come here. I know a lot of you are doing exams. In fact, some of my students were also tweeting and saying they really can't make it because they're finishing final papers. So thank all of you who are taking the sacrifice to be here. Let's give another round of applause to our guests. I have some questions that we coordinated collectively with the department, but before I get into those questions, I would like to ask Bobi Wine a more personal question. After the elections on January 15th,
your home was raided by the military. Your wife, Barbara, assaulted. Many of your supporters didn't know what had happened to you. It took almost 2 months before people realized you were still alive. Would you like to talk a little bit about that as an introduction before I get into specific questions? Because sometimes we tend to forget that you have a family. We're talking about women leaders here who are not just talking about who wants to become the leader of Uganda. So talk a little bit about that from a personal family, about that experience. And in as much as you can say how you managed to get out of Uganda. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Greetings, sisters and brothers. I'm very honored to be with you today. My real name is Kyagulanyi, although I'm known by my musical stage name, Bobi Wine. On January 15th, we had an election, a presidential election. Now that was the second time I was running for president. I first ran for president in Uganda in 2021. That story is all summarized in a Netflix documentary, in a Nat Geo documentary that is on Hulu called Bobi Wine, the People's President. It was a long, sad, miserable story. But in January this year, I ran for president. We held the polls on 15th, and immediately my wife and I had cast our ballot. We were surrounded by the military and house arrest. The following day, on the 16th, we were raided, but I escaped from home because I had learned earlier that there was an order to harm me fundamentally, an order issued by the Chief of Defense Forces, the head of the Uganda military, who is also the son of General Museveni, the president of Uganda now. I remained in hiding for over a week, and on the 23rd of January, once again, my house was raided, my wife assaulted, family members assaulted, and my wife ended up in hospital. Luckily enough, she used a mask and escaped from our hospital bed and was able to make it out of the country with our children. I remained in the country for the next close to 2 months until I was also able to still make it out of the country and be here. Now, why did I escape from my country? There were orders, not private orders, but these orders were also even tweeted by General Kyagulanyi, who is the head of the Ugandan military and the son of the current president, who issued an order that I should be delivered to him, dead or alive. He followed it up with another order that I should be found by the military and castrated. Now these are still on Twitter as we speak right now. Of course, this follows the constant bragging. He is also quoted having tweeted that he had killed 23 of my friends, and these are not numbers, these are real people. And he was hoping that I'm the 24th person he gets unkilled. This is a person that abducted my friends, including my personal bodyguard, tortured him, not in silence, but live on social media, shaved him hair and beards, and then tweeted the naked pictures of him. This is the same person that raided the home of my personal political assistant, expecting to get me there. They thought that is where I was hiding. They didn't get me, and they abducted the wife of my personal assistant, held her in military barracks for 37 days. In those 37 days, so much nasty things happened to her, but among which she told us that they even removed her contraception, the IUD, from her. Now these and many other abuses are done, especially to women. Knowing that was the case, I knew what would befall me if I fell in their hands. That's how I ended up here. Now many people, especially back home, especially those that are in support of the regime but are trading under the Pan-African banner, were criticizing me of ending up in America and not in another African country like Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, and all these others. But we all know that the dictatorships back home are intertwined and look up to one another. We have a very known political icon called Dr. Kyagulanyi, who was the main opposition leader for so many years before I showed up. he was abducted in Kenya by Ugandan security, driven across the border in a car trunk, and right now he's in prison in Uganda, having been presented in a Kyagulanyi military court. Many other citizens have been abducted either from Tanzania or from Kenya and other countries. That is how I ended up here. I'm not here to seek pity. I'm here to seek solidarity with fellow Africans and citizens of the world, because I know that time immemorial, the liberation of oppressed places has been successful with the help of the diasporas. That's why I'm here. I could go on and on, but I hope that's not introductory enough to you.
Thank you for that. All right, so let's stick with the theme of the literature for now. And when people think of elections, you have to really put it in the context of Uganda. Describe what is referred to, even by international media, as the election in Uganda. When, in fact, when you're campaigning, there were certain places you could not even access because, and we were watching this being streamed live. You were blocked by the military, you were blocked by the police. There were no-go zones declared for you, and your convoy was being fired on with live bullets, and some of your aides were actually struck with live bullets. And yet, people still showed up to the campaign rallies. Could you try to explain that? Why are people willing to take that risk to come to your campaign rallies, even though they know that there's a very high likelihood of violence being meted out?
Thank you.
By the armed forces and police.
What keeps bringing people to listen to the message of change is hope. It is only hope, the undying hope, the stubborn hope that drives the people. What keeps us going is a desire to keep that hope alive. We said it many times that Uganda is the second youngest country in the world. We are young, we are broke, we are hungry and angry. We could pick guns and remove that government, that oppressive regime. But we know history has shown us that violence has not produced peace, it produces more violence. And we also know that it's painful, but non-violence is stronger than violence. That's why we start with non-violence. So we went into this campaign that we did the other time, well knowing the kind of regime that we were facing, but it was the only window for us to connect with the people, to interact with the people, and to awaken and arouse them, and we achieved that. Yeah.
Okay, so one of the next question is the role of outside countries. And the question is, how do international actors, whether Western governments, China, or multilateral institutions, and of course that includes the World Bank and IMF, how do they shape the political outcomes in Uganda? And how should African leaders navigate these influences while maintaining sovereignty? Well, in the case of Uganda, it's a bit different because he's maintained his sovereignty for the last 40 years. So you can talk about that in Uganda's case, but generally in African countries as well.
Thank you very much. Sovereignty has a completely different meaning back home. Just like elections, just like democracy. I mean, these are words that are used and thrown around whenever desired by the authoritarian leaders back home. In the context of Uganda, much as we got independence 63 years ago in 1962, I don't look at us as the citizens independent. The regime in Uganda for over a decade has been receiving up to $1 billion every year from the United States. Later on, what comes from Europe and other countries. But this has been a transaction not between the people of Uganda and the developing partners, but between General Museveni and the developing partners. It's unfortunate, and this will be reiterating it, that we are oppressed not because we are weak as the people of Uganda. Africans are oppressed by dictators not because they're weak, but because those dictators have a wing beneath their wing, and that wing are the so-called development partners, allow me to call them operation partners. Why? Because these are democracies. And if they wanted us to have democracy, we would get it. I'll take you a little bit back. Idi Amin was supported by the rich until they had had enough of him and others. The apartheid regime was supported by the West until they had had enough of him. I am very sure that if America or Europe did not agree with the oppression of the people of Uganda, they would stop it by disassociating with it. The regimes in Uganda, the regime in Uganda and many other authoritarian regimes in Africa have their bloodline, have their support, have their survival tied to the developed world. Why elections are being rigged, all we get are statements and not action. On 18th and 19th November 2020, hundreds of people were massacred on the street in Uganda. Yes, we are glad we got some statements of condemnation, but we did not see any sanctions being slapped on those people that killed Ugandans in cold blood. And that continues again and again and again. So, yeah, the dictators are there, but they are surviving from the foreign partners. Today, Museveni is in business with China, and because of that, the biggest survival source, which is Lake Naruwa, they call it Lake Victoria, is out of balance for the local fishing communities. Why? Because the Chinese are using it. The foreigners, for as long as they are white or have white skins in Uganda, are much more regarded than the citizens. It can go on and on and on and on. Much of the reason why we come to the developed world is to call them out. We know that apartheid thrived until a documentary was shown here in America against apartheid, and until there were widespread protests of Africans and friends of Africa condemning apartheid, that apartheid was defeated and it brought down. So we come here not because the people back home are not charged. When you look at the campaign, the masses, young, old, male, female, educated, uneducated, rural, urban, all turned up to show their desire for change. But the dictator was able to subdue them by killing them, by abducting them, by raping women and men to calm them down, and it's that succeeds because the Western world closes their eyes. That's why we come to spaces like this, well knowing that a student of Howard University might be a senior student, but you have to believe that you, especially who come from Africa, are so followed and so honored and so respected. To raise this voice, maybe this voice will be echoed by you and get our friends, the American population, and those in the administration that you can reach out to ensure that they are provoked, at least their conscience is provoked to change the narrative back home.
All right, so I want to ask you a question about the youth movement and how you galvanize the youth in Uganda. Uganda is one of the youngest countries in the world. 80% of the population is under the age of 35. But before you respond to that question, and the importance of the youth movement in Africa, we've seen some changes in countries like Senegal because of what the youth have been able to do by coming out to the streets. So I want you to address that. But before that, I want to tag on to what you said in your last remark in terms of how the global community was galvanized to fight apartheid in South Africa. And I've always thought about this. Do you think it was much easier to get a global movement against apartheid than to try to galvanize a global movement to go after an African government which may actually have repressive policies that are comparable to the apartheid regime? Maybe you could speak on that and then segue to the youth.
Thank you. Why was it easier to get the global movement against apartheid up and running there now. I wouldn't be very quick to say it was easier because Mandela was in prison for 27 years. And even before then, there was oppression. In fact, I believe it took longer. Why? Because the oppressors there, mainly because they were white. But again, I will tell you that the challenge that I see is that back home we seem to be quick to condemn an oppression by foreigners and to close an eye to oppression by our own king and king. Oppression is wrong, whether by white people or by black people. Now, oppression during apartheid, during colonialism, brought us all together because we were oppressed as Africans in our own land. Unfortunately, majority of our liberators turned into oppressors. There's one song that I sang and said, see our leaders become misleaders, and see our militants become tormentors. And that's exactly what became. When you look back, most of the oppressors, most of the dictators were once freedom fighters. I was named after Robert Mugabe. My name is Robert. And my parents gave me that name because in 1982, Robert Mugabe was a prized revolutionary. And we had so much hope in him because he was speaking so highly, he was giving so much hope. Yoweri Museveni himself, the ruler of Uganda, he used to speak the way I speak, only more eloquent when he was much younger. But unfortunately, as time went on, power corrupted them. And again, even more unfortunately, they found justification for that oppression. That everybody, especially the young people that rise to the occasion and say, we are the future and we want the opportunity to determine our own future. They are quick to brand them agents of the West. That is unfortunately, and that is why it has become so hard for us to fight, to free ourselves, to be able to determine our own destiny, because there is always that narrative of the past. You talked about the youth movement or the youth search, and we appreciate that. And it inspires us from South Africa to Zimbabwe to Uganda and now to Senegal. I was in Senegal when Sonko was in prison, when the then president was trying to change the constitution so he could run again and again and again. But it took the steadfastness and strength of the people of Senegal to resist that. And that is how the new generation rose to the occasion. I'm just glad that the new leadership, the young leadership of Senegal was raised by the people, was mandated by the people, so they must be in many ways answerable to the people. Thank you.
So sticking with that same point you just made, a young Senegalese student actually posed that same question to me. And she said, why is it that in Uganda, the youth in Uganda are not able to duplicate what the young people were able to accomplish in Senegal? You explain that? I think that ties in the tail end of the question that I posed. To what extent can youth-led political movements in Africa transition from protest mobilization to institutional political power?
Thank you. I'll say the young people in Uganda or anywhere in Africa are not just weak. They're doing all they're doing. They're doing all they can. Unfortunately, they are up against immeasurable force. I'll give you an example of the youth movement in Tanzania. They tried just last year to fight for their democracy. Reports show us that up to 10,000 young people were massacred on the streets, and there has not been any accountability. In Uganda, the movement that I lead, we have thousands, up to 3,000 of our comrades in prison for daring to raise their fist up and say they want freedom. You've seen that in many other countries, in Cameroon, even in Kenya where there was a Gen Z protest and all that. So the young people of Africa are rising to the occasion. It hurts me to say that I still strongly believe in nonviolence. Nonviolence seems to delay. But these young people, those that are leading them, are struggling to discourage them from violence because we see the kind of leaders that violence has brought to us. What was achieved in Senegal, I believe, can and will be achieved in Uganda, in Kenya, in Tanzania, and many other countries. But again, one would be quick to ask, why did you come to America? We come to America because why do we fight for freedom back in Uganda? And why do we use the truth and words as our weapon? We cannot fight against $1 billion. We cannot fight against American trained commandos that are staged as snipers to shoot down any young man or young woman that is seen on the street protesting with placards and banners and leading their friends. We cannot fight against the heroes that come from Europe. So, what we come to tell these administrations here, these Western countries, is that we're not asking you to save us, just stop funding, stop sponsoring our operation, stop arming them, stop obstructing our mode of fight for the values that you taught us, for the values that you profess every day: democracy, the rule of law, and respect for human rights.
So maybe I'll just pose two more questions and then I'll open it up to Q&A. On the issue of Pan-Africanism, do you see meaningful prospects for stronger regional or continental solidarity among opposition movements in Africa? Or are these struggles still largely confined within national political systems?
Yeah, I really struggle to speak from the point of view of an opposition leader, or even from the point of view of a politician. I hesitate to refer to myself as a politician. I did not get into politics because I wanted it. No. It was desperation. It was lack of an option. I'm not the most qualified.
Could you talk a little bit more about that for people that are not familiar? Why did you say, I have no choice but to become engaged in politics?
Well, thank you. I'm a musician, guys. You will not find a politician called Bobi Wine. That's a musical name. In fact, a few years ago, I had my long records that I painfully had to let go in order to feed in that image of the person running for president. But I never even used to dress like this. I'm a musician. I was a musician. That is concerned. But before then, as you know, stars are so sought after. And in a country like Uganda, the powerful and mighty love associate with stars. So I was friends with all these military generals and all these powerful people. And he was right. I was not affected by oppression because I was rich, I was popular, and everything. It's just this one day when I was walking out of a nightclub with my Cadillac carried with 24 spinning wheels, when I was attacked by the young man, my age, but it was a security operative, and he slapped the hell out of me. What was my crime? Showing off. He asked me, why are you showing off? The children in this country has owners. Well, that was because all the cows were looking at me, and I was in the middle of the night. That, for me, was a wake-up slap. It reminded me that regardless of my stardom and my musical success and my wealth, I was not safe in a country where there is no justice. And since then, I started changing my music from entertainment to entertainment with a song about the rights of the people and the oppression. And it took me a whole 10 years from when I was 25 until when I was 35. I realized that much as I was communicating, still nothing would change until I went to the platform where these words matter. And therefore, 10 years later, in 2017, I ran for MP because I wanted to go to Parliament and speak these words. So when I went to Parliament, in that election, good enough, the people had connected with my top line, and I won 80% of the vote, competing against the main political party and the opposition party. Still, I did not believe in partisan politics, and we started a political movement called the People Power Movement. But as time went on, I was pushed to challenge General Museveni first to stay alive because I had come so outspoken that if I was not anywhere where the eye of the media would focus on me and I would be safe, then I would be in so much danger. I ran for president, and here I am. But again, why do I say that I don't want to be representing a particular group, even when I lead a political party, the main opposition political party in Uganda? I know that Uganda, like many other countries, is now divided between oppressors and the oppressed, not between ruling party and opposition, no, between oppressors and the oppressed. Why am I saying that? Because there are oppressors, oppressed people, even within the ruling party. General Museveni's son, who is a military commander, had his birthday yesterday, no, the day before yesterday, and he issued an order that every soldier has to show up and run to celebrate his birthday. He issued an order that every government official must come and celebrate his birthday, even when he himself was not there. And he tweeted, when we check out his Twitter, he questioned why the former military commanders had disrespected him by not showing up for his birthday run. Now, everybody, majority of them had to show up because they're so frightened. Imagine a military official in a government of King Jong-un. They are scared to death. So those are oppressed people within the ruling party, and yet they are oppressed within the so-called opposition, because we have so many members in the opposition whose major goal is not to put an end to the dictatorship, but to improve their status within the circumstances. So, what I see as desirable is galvanizing the people, regardless of their political party, to, see the truth and follow the truth. Now, you ask, how did we then morph from a political movement called People Power to a political party called the National Unity Platform? Now, we unveil this political party only 1 month to the election, because our movement could not be registered with an instruction by government not to register it as a political party, and yet I was going to run for president, and many people that we associate with were running for various positions of office. We came to an agreement that we cannot just be, sloganeering, and we cannot just be complaining. We chose to sit down and present an alternative. And so we ran for leadership. We got an unknown political party. There are so many political parties that were, registered so many years ago, and they remain on the papers. So we decided through a proxy that was crafted, but we had to do it. Through a proxy, we changed this name, and we had a hidden delegates conference where the leadership of that party elected me president, and boom, We showed it. The regime could not change anything. There are no alternative. The international community was watching. So they let us run. And that's how we ended up being a political party. Why then do I think that it is necessary for other people in the same circumstances to do the same? Because there must be an alternative. We must criticize what's being done wrong, but also we must offer alternatives. Because when we remove the dictatorships, there should be versions, there should be ready alternatives to spring us to the next level. Thank you.
Okay, final question. You ran for Parliament in 2017, as you recounted, and you defeated the ruling party candidate, I believe, by 2/3 or more of the vote. And then you endorsed 2 or 3 other people who ran for Parliament against the ruling party candidate, and all of them won. And then I guess the decisive showdown was in August 2018, another parliamentary election in Arua, where Museveni himself went to campaign for the ruling party candidate, and you went to campaign for the opposition party candidate.
And we won.
And you panicked, I recall, and he accused you of inciting people to throw stones at his convoy, and the opposition candidate arrested, you were arrested, beaten, and tortured, and the opposition candidate still won, even though Museveni had campaigned for his candidate. So I guess that was the decisive point that they really started targeting you.
Yeah.
You came to the United States for treatment, and many people didn't believe you would go back to Uganda. But not only did you go back, you ran for president in 2021, and you ran again in 2026, even with all the threats.
Yeah.
Some people might wonder, why do you do that? Is the risk worth it? Explain.
Every risk for freedom is worth it. Because in this life, we either live or we exist. I want to live. And you cannot live when you're not free, when you don't have the right to determine your own destiny. So I went back home because I had to go back home anyway, whether I am or dead. You know. I went back home then because I needed to keep that hope alive. I had run for my life, but still, it wasn't a solution to stay out. So you might ask me, are you going to go back this time? Yes, I am. I'm only trying to make sure that I make it harder to kill me, or at least more costly. Yeah.
All right, so now we go to the best part of this event, which is, of course, taking your questions from the audience. So let's see, maybe we'll take 5 questions.
5, 6 questions.
Okay.
And if people could come up and line up if you have questions. So that, because we only have one mic.
Please keep your questions concise.
All right, so let's keep it brief so we can get everybody to at least pose a question.
Maybe a suggestion, I'm sorry. Maybe if we could make a conversation and you ask a question, maybe I get to respond to it when it's still hot.
First, let me say thank you so much for bringing Bobi Wine. I was so excited when I saw the email last night. I'm from South Africa, and I've been following your work and your struggles and your sacrifices. is one question, but I'm going to list 11 issues that I think South Africa had that you don't have to waste your struggle in Uganda. South Africa, one, had the clergy,
And the clergy.
Desmond Tutu, and organized labor, is number 2, and ANC exile leaders in exile, who were doing international work. It had the abstract, which was in exile as well. It had Nelson Mandela in prison. It had the mass democratic movement in southern countries. It had international solidarity, friends against apartheid. Number 7, young white kids started to die in Angola in the battle of Kyagulanyi, and the white parents started to complain. Number 8, international sanctions, economic, sports, and cultural boycott. Number 9, musicians in exile. We are highlighting the plan to oppressed black people. Number 10, the civilized and civilians inside the country committed to making the country ungovernable. What do you have?
From controversies, you have
So I
that.
said,
Yeah, he mentioned it.
what do you
What do we
have?
have?
Because we said reports are against you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, my South African brother. Dear Lord, South Africa has all this. He had Mandela in prison, he had God overseas where they come in, it had a project, it had musicians and leaders in exile, name it. What we have? We have everything. Then the next question will be, why are you not succeeding yet? I'll tell you, my brother, we have a saying in our Uganda culture that commit crimes with, or a person who used to steal with, when they sleep behind the house, you won't sleep. Now, these African dictators are yes, freedom fighters, and they have studied the factors that those that are yearning for freedom, that help those that are yearning for freedom get free. And unfortunately, they have not studied them for the benefit or betterment of their people. They've studied them in order to crush their own people. First, the clergy. We have the clergy. We have the Inter-Religious Council, which is supposed to be the most moral religious body in Uganda. Unfortunately, it has been reduced to a pool of subjugation. Just the other day, the head of the Church of Uganda was on TV telling Uganda, I am not here to serve you. I'm not going to be like, we have a great religious leader, the Archbishop, the person who was occupying the same office in the days of Idi Amin was killed. His name was Archbishop Janan Woom, who was killed by Idi Amin for speaking truth to power. And now the person occupying that very office is telling us that if you speak against the government, you will get killed, and I'm not going to speak against the government because I have a family. More or less telling us not to follow Jesus because Jesus was killed for the same reason. Number 2, they had musicians. I'm a musician myself. But as we speak now, my music is banned in Uganda. And so many people are in prison for being called playing my music live. There's a lady we battled her last year, her name is Marinos. She was caught and raped repeatedly in the military for being found playing my music. And as if that's not enough, there is a budget enough to build 2 hospitals has been given to musicians to sing praises for General Museveni because he understands the effect of music, the power of music. He used music in the armed struggle. Now, some Ugandans, of course, have made an effort over the years to start armed struggles. But General Museveni and his people have spent the last 40 years in power, stockpiling weapons. And we don't want to drive them to an area that they want. they've already named us terrorists, even when we just terrorize them with the microphone and the guitar. So we are cautious not to take them where they have strength, violence. That's why we maintain non-violence. I could go on and on, but the summary of that is the fact that these dictators have taken time to even get started people. Now, the freedom fighters in Uganda are not the intellectuals, the religious and cultural leaders, the professors, the engineers, and all these educated people have been reduced to tools. Now, the freedom fighters back home are the barbers, the market vendors, the political prisoners we have now are Olivia Rudai, the most popular political prisoner, female political prisoner, is Olivia Rudai. She's a hawker, an uneducated woman. Ed Mutwe, who is a barber, Machete Yasin, who is an Okada, Oda rider, and all that. It is the common people now fighting for themselves. Because what these liberators of yesterday learned was not to teach the next generation how to free themselves, but they got those skills in order to immunize any other effort to liberate the dictatorships that they knew would come. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Sorry, the Department of African Studies from Ghana. So my question one, when you were talking, you spoke about how power corrupts. So I have two questions. One, in what ways would you ensure that, once you also get into leadership, that power does not corrupt, and also those who come after would also not be corrupted? And two would be also in terms of we see those who liberated, got us into independence. When it came to time to construct a nation, they had real struggles or real problems as to building a nation. So now Bobi Wine is now the president. What's next for Uganda? And also what would your foreign policy be towards Africa?
Thank you. About being corrupted in power. Yes, that's true. What do I think is going to be the solution to avoid that? I mean, everybody that is looking for power or looking for freedom, as we say, we present ourselves as if looking for freedom and if you're looking for power. And after getting that power tends to corrupt those leaders. So what is the solution to that? The solution is number one, make sure that we are not looking for a liberty, but for galvanizing each other to liberate ourselves. We don't need another big man, another big daddy. All we need is an empowered population. And that, we are not going to do it when we get there. We must do it even now. Empower our institutions, or build institutions. So these institutions will outlive human weakness and human greed. We all know power corrupts. We've seen so many, I've already told you of them after Robert Mugabe. He was amazing then, but power corrupted him. I cannot promise you that power won't corrupt me. Therefore, let us make sure that I am not the one liberating us, that we are liberating us. Countries that develop, countries that develop don't look at the leader, they look at the people. Countries like America here, or anywhere, all these democracies, they're not well governed because they have very good leaders. No. They don't stop this corruption because the leaders are so moral. No, you've seen that even here in America, you've seen the Epstein files and all that, but I won't go into that business. These countries are well governed because the people are empowered enough not to take any nonsense from the leaders. So we should build an empowered citizen to hold the leaders accountable, to make sure leaders are servants and not bosses. and to constantly remind those leaders that if they degenerate to what they pretended to fight against, they can and will be kicked the hell out. Leaders must be held in a constant state of tension and be reminded that they are servants and they govern in the interest and on behalf of the people. So let us not look for liberator, let us all be liberators. I believe that is the best way. Finally, you're asking me what I think should be the alternative. Of course, like I said, I'm not here as an unknowing person. I'm here because I want freedom. I want self-determination like anybody else. For us in Uganda, and I believe in many places in Africa, what we want first and foremost is to have a vote. I don't need to be a world-class economist. No. I just need to have a vote and to have the entire population have the power to listen to what is presented to us and what she is presenting to us. And to have the right either to vote for what is presented to us or what she is presenting to us. We want the vote. We want the ability to be able to decide what we want, and that is honor. As simple as that. Thank you.
Mr. Senator, thank you so much for coming. My name is Dennis. I was born and raised in Jinja. In 2021, when you ran, I was among the young people that were really excited to come back to Uganda and vote for you. And I made it possible to be there in time and actually gather up my fellow young people to come and vote. You know, we actually went back and forth with our parents because they were like, "Oh, we need to vote for this person. We're voting for Bobi Wine." That's why we flew in. We wanted to vote for you. Actually, I had to escape coming back because after the elections, there were so many roadblocks. We were rounding up people, young people, and all that, and we had to pay some people to get those shortcuts out to the airport, and we finally made it. But I think my concern is there's been so many young people that have been imprisoned for the sake of liberating Uganda under the leadership of Mr. Sentamu. What is the way forward for a lot of these young people that are in prisons? They've been there for a long time. They continue being arrested. We've seen in countries around East Africa like Kenya, where political parties have come together to negotiate the way forward. My question and my maybe plea is, would you be open to negotiating if that option was open? Or have you ever thought about that route? How can we move forward as a nation? Because if we have a giant in there that is unshakable, or we've tried to shake him, but it's coming at a big cost, a lot of people are dying. It's happened. I was in Zimbabwe, I went to school in Zimbabwe. And I saw what dictatorships do. Firsthand, I was there. We've seen the chaos in Kenya, where there have been so many Kenyans that have fled into Uganda because of political unrest. But a lot of political parties, I can't remember the name of the opposition leader at that time in Zimbabwe, young man too.
Morgan Shangra?
Yes, Shangra. Kind of stepped off and thought ways to negotiate the way forward. So you've had friends that have been in prison and are still in prisons. We have young people all over the country. Jinja, where that have been rounded up. I have some friends, they were released, but they were taken in jail as well. What is the way forward? Sorry, my question is to him, but what's the way forward?
Thank you very much, brother from Uganda, and I'm glad you started in Zimbabwe. So you have a grip of both lands. If I had you well, are we willing to negotiate? Negotiate what? I mean, everything that we're saying is in black and white. According to our constitution, it's not clearly not to run for president. I run for president. These young people turned up to support me because it is legal and moral. And we were nonviolent. We went out there to campaign. We were rounded up and thrown in prison for years. Some have spent for more than 5 years. Others were killed. And yes, the regime in Uganda reached out to those who are in prison and told them that the only way they will leave prison is to accept that they committed a crime and to apologize to General Museveni for being hoodwinked and fooled by me into going into opposition politics. Now I fail to understand what crime is there. Of course, many of them were forced to apologize and were released. Others refused because they don't see any crime they committed. And again, they were being accused of terrorism. So the government told them, for them to be released, they must accept that offense, get amnesty and get out. So for somebody to get a tag permanently on you for being a terrorist, you know, it was unacceptable. Of course, they kept in prison with no trial whatsoever. They just dumped them. And as for me, to negotiate, I mean, in negotiation,
For power share.
maybe if I will finish. But in the negotiation, there's something you give and you take. Me, what I want is to have my comrades released from prison. What should I do? To promise that I will never challenge Museveni again? To promise that I will never talk about the wrong things that are being done? Finally, for us to negotiate, maybe the first thing should be to declare the law useless because we have laws. I'm convinced that I've not done anything wrong because I've never been arrested or I'm convicted, only harassed. So, for us to negotiate about something wrong, then that would mean dismissing the law. I'm not after power. Power sharing is for people that want power. I just want to be free. And if there's a law, let that law be followed. Because, okay, for me, what if I negotiate and say, okay, I have such and such a condition? What about those that are looking at us, that are looking at the truth that we're speaking? Does that mean that all of a sudden what we're saying is wrong? What we are pushing for is to see the rule of law respected in Uganda. Is to see human rights respected in Uganda. Is to see democracy respected in Uganda. So among those three things, democracy, the rule of law, and respect for human rights, what would you want me to negotiate? What would you want us to give up? For us to say, we want them all because they are fundamental and are provided in the Constitution. Thank you.
And let's try to keep it brief because
Yeah.
we're sort of like compressed for time. So everybody, you have 2 minutes behind you, and then go ahead.
My name is Bobi Wine. I'm an Jason. I studied from Uganda. I was born and raised in Singa, Kampala, and I'm a graduate student at Science University. And my question for you is, what ways and what things can we do to advocate for issues back at home?
I'm sorry, the last word.
In what ways can our youth here in America advocate for issues back at home?
Man, you're eating the words. one. I'm sorry.
What's the way that the youth can advocate for change back home?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you very much. What ways can youth advocate for change back home? First, get involved in any way that you can. Uganda is a young country. Take charge. These things that we're doing, we're not doing them so that we accomplish the mission. We might even die along the way, but we want to inspire others so that it does not, the cause does not die with us. So many people came before us. If there's anything that they did, they awakened us. And we are doing this to lead by example. Get involved. We are in Howard University. This is one of the world's best. Here where we are is where Kamala Harris studied. And indeed, in other universities in the developed world, we've had people like Kwame Nkrumah, like Dr. Bote, like exactly. Many of them. Now you are the Nandis of today, you are the Nkrumahs of today. Get involved. My presence here. Yeah, but before that, get involved. Take that charge. Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, South Africa, or any other country where you come from is your country. And by the virtue of the fact that you are here, means you are creed and a creed. Okay? I'm a Christian, and we are told that to whom much is given, much is expected. I'm a little child from Kambodsha. But maybe God knows me to come and spark you guys that have everything that it takes. You are much more educated, much more positional. Take that charge. You the young people, that is take one. Get involved. Obama used to say it, and I agree with him. You are the hope that you've been waiting for. Nobody is going to be married to. Nobody is going to save you. That's one. Two, use other tools. If you don't lead, at least be the wind beneath those that are leading. While the cameras and lights shining on me, there's so many people behind me. These ones that I'm saying are not just my wife. These are conversations that we have with so many other people, those that are not bold enough to speak out, those that, don't have the opportunity and charisma to speak out, but they have the thoughts. So if you cannot lead from the front, from the sidelines, empower and support those that are leading the cause that you believe in. 3, you see that phone right there? Man, that's more powerful than a gun. Use it. We are in the age of social media. You see, everywhere in the world, on the internet, everybody has followers. But where are you leading them to? Lead them. Awaken them. You, the intellectuals, have read so much. Where I was in a bookshop, I saw many books by Frantz Fanon, but one thing I remember from Frantz Fanon, he said every generation might, out of deep reflection, identify their mission and either pursue it or betray it. I have no doubt that you, the noble students of Howard, the great Howard University, I have no doubt that you know your cause. Now, you only left with choosing either to pursue it or betray it. So, get involved in whichever way. We are ready to follow you. We trust your brains. We just need you to trust your heart. Thank you.
And also, my godfather is Ronald Gonzalez, the current mayor of Compton. So yeah, appreciate you for. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Thank you so much for your courage. You have inspired so many in the continent of Africa. I come from Kenya. And every time the young people in my family hear Bobi Wine there, they celebrate you. So my question to you tonight is there a movement that is beyond Uganda that is uniting young people to stand for their rights? I know in Kenya when they started killing the Gen Zs, they were saying you will kill some of us, but some of us will survive. But the government was so ruthless to a point where people started feeling afraid. But you are courage. You haven't been afraid. You have been very courageous. And I'm wondering whether there is a movement around you that transcends Uganda, a Pan-African movement, so to speak. And the young people here that you are encouraging to do this, they need to be in a movement in order to really respond to the challenge that they have in front of them today. And, you know, social media is amazing. And I'm really hoping that you will go back to singing regularly so that we can hear your artistic skills challenging people to think, because sometimes a politician's words are disregarded.
Yeah.
But as an artist, you have more influence. Thank you.
Thank you very much, my sister. I appreciate the compliments. But allow me not to take too much compliment. When you mentioned that I'm courageous, I don't see myself as courageous. I see myself as desperate. I mean, yeah, every now and then I pretend to be courageous. And it works. Some people tend to believe it. But our grandfather, Nelson Mandela, told us that courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to either overcome it or pretend. I've learned one thing, that when you pretend to be courageous, you end up being kind of courageous. So I just pretend to be courageous because there is no alternative. Then, man, I fear death like everybody else. I want to be able to raise my children, see them graduate, see them get married. I also love life. But it's desperation, the absence of an alternative. And that's why we do this. And I mean, if there's anybody out there that sees the way we do it, I would encourage them to do it. When we were in the camp, we used to love the saying that fake it until you make it. So when we face the soldiers, we look in their eyes and pretend to be tough. And guess what? We tend to realize that they're also not as tough if we hold those guns. So it's that spirit that shows up when we talk or when we pretend to be tough, especially when we stand for what is right. Toughness actually embraces you and you become very tough. Now, whether or not we are thinking or having an African movement, that is one thing that is very, very important. Very, very important. We are in touch with some brothers and sisters, political leaders, especially the young ones across Africa. But it should be more than that. It should go beyond the politicians. Because, man, it is harder to trust a person that is running for political office, however genuine their intentions are. Because politics has been vulgarized and reduced to interests, reduced to a pursuit of power. So we should have more activists, more women like yourselves, who are into this for the spirit of motherhood. We should have more young people involved, so that it is not just the politicians, because politicians are very easy to reach out to and silence or compromise. However, I take note of that, and I also promise to work more and work better and harder in that line, because indeed we cannot fight these ills in isolation. What hurts the Kenyans, hurts the Tanzanians, hurts the Ugandans. And indeed, you will notice that a dictatorship in one place can very easily contaminate democracies around it. General Museveni has shown us an example that he has made it look like one can commit all these crimes against his people or her people and get away with it. Look what's happening in Kenya. Back in the day, those that were fighting against Idi Amin would run to Kenya and be safe. Not anymore. I just told you Dr. Presley was abducted from Kenya and illegally driven across the border. So many Kenyans are being abducted and it's becoming a new norm. Look at Tanzania and other countries. So it cannot be overestimated or overstated the need for those that want change, that want freedom to work together. And we pray that in the coming days we are going to be more united. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. My name is Afina Alubama. First of all, I want to thank you for the resilience, the courage, and the determination you exercised during the recently concluded brutal and deadly campaigns. Thank you very much. On that note, I want to say for a long time, the dictator back home has been playing games that he knows best. He's been doing his thing, the interfering into other countries' businesses. Take for instance, today, when you go to our neighboring countries around, everybody is complaining about Uganda, Uganda, Uganda. When you go to southern Sudan, there are some places in Uganda cannot cross at all, more especially now, in the counties where the Noel people come from. When you go to the Central African Republic, they don't want to hear about name called Uganda. When you go to Kenya right now, people, the Gen Zs in Kenya are complaining that the people that are abducting their children, they are not Kenyans, they are Ugandans. When you go to Tanzania recently, about the brutal campaigns they had, they are complaining that the people who killed thousands and thousands of their people were not Tanzanians, they were mercenaries from Uganda. When you go to Ethiopia, they complain that Uganda is training Tigrins who's like, who are playing their own games, let me say that. So now, when you move around, you find that Uganda is the common factor, poking its ugly nose into every other person's businesses. Mr. President, my question is, what plans do you have in place to harness peace among all these countries that belong to the Great Lakes region when you are sworn, because it won't be long before you are sworn. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Fiona. I love to see Uganda and Africa that have that stubborn faith. That have that hope. It is what we do with Fiona, and that will not be so long from now. How are we going to stop the interfering in the business of other countries, killing them and messing them up? How are we going to deal? The question is, how are we going to deal with it? We are going to deal with it by stopping it. How are we going to stop it? By stopping the person that does that thing. That is Museveni. Get him out of power. He won't be able to use our military to kill people in South Sudan or in Central African Republic, or to support and protect dictators in Equatorial Guinea and Cameroon. because it's our military that is protecting the president of Equatorial Guinea, dictators that have been in power for over 40 years. So when we stop a dictator in one place, we are stopping dictatorship in many other places. I'll tell you that Museveni's rule, or misrule for that matter, has not only affected Ugandans. We are 49, maybe 50 million Ugandans. There are how many Kenyans? You know, a few millions. The millions in Tanzania are affected by the rule in Uganda. All the Great Lakes region, roughly about 200 million Africans are being affected by Museveni, directly and indirectly. So when we remove that dictator, yes, we Ugandans will be benefiting directly, but other Africans will be benefiting indirectly. So this is not only our fight. We are removing the dictator back home, but we are also stopping the interference, the massacres, and the perpetuation of dictatorships in other countries. Look at South Sudan. It's as if Museveni is the president also of South Sudan and these other countries. So let's remove him and stop that. Secondly, after Museveni is gone, we will be dealing with these countries. We won't be exporting war. We'll be exporting business. These are going to be business partners. Look how it is with Congo. Look how it is with other countries. So it is a peace. We won't be warmongers. No. We will be business partners with these countries. Thank you.
Hello, good evening, Mr. President. So whenever I came to your forums, a lot of people are asking to meet you directly. I have many questions. The first question, if you become the president, how would the African unity look like? If you can give us a picture of that. The second one, when are you thinking to write your life story, and if you want to write it, what the title would be?
Am I intending to write my story?
Yeah. And I have, I think, coming to leadership at a young age, empower and encourage a lot of people. But like, for example, in my country, South Sudan, there is people who are in leadership at your age, and we have elder uncle who will look at them, oh, look at this guy who is speaking and telling things he's not elder than his age. So I wanted to know if you have a way of you can change the narrative and the scenario of young leaders to all the people. And also, youth want to get involved in leadership, but they are worried about how they can be stable. What is the best way for a young person to get into politics or to be a leader, but at the same time they can balance between their work and their career? Thank you.
Now, before I forget, these are three questions. The first question was, how do we hope to ensure that there is African unity? And the second question was,
Your story.
my story, what name would the book be?
Yeah.
And the third was
About
the youth and age. First, about African unity. You see, you cannot find a solution unless you recognize what the problem is. What is the problem about African unity? We have the East African community. We have the African Union and all that. What are they doing? I think all these regional continental organizations are only a shadow of themselves. They have been reduced to clubs, president's clubs. Where the East African community is there, is a club of presidents, not for the East African people. Otherwise, these leaders will be concerned about the massacres in this country. And these leaders will be calling each other to account, like it was back in the days. Unfortunately, now they are about these leaders and not the people. For as long as Museveni, Ruto, Suru, and others are on good terms with each other, it does not matter what kind of relationship I'm having with my Kenyan, Tanzanian, or South Sudanese brother or sister. And the same way, look at the African Union. Have you heard, for example, of any statement from the African Union about the xenophobic attacks of black brothers and sisters in South Africa? The same way it was from all these African states when people were being massacred in South Africa during apartheid, or when they were brutal dictatorships like Idi Amin. So the problem now is that it is no longer about the people. It is about these leaders. And for as long as they can look out for each other and protect each other's presidency, the people don't matter. Now we want to flip it and make it about the people and to bring our people together and make these collaborations, these organizations, being people-based and have policies that will make our people integrate. It is not the rulers or leaders who integrate, it is the people. These communities are for the people. And they should also be value-based. They should be meant for the protection of the values that we claim values bring us together. Because if we have similar values, if we have democracy in one country at the same standard as democracy in another country, that would be integration. Because it will make it easier for people to relate, to have the same tax regime, to have the same protection, to have the same freedom, and for countries, for citizens of one country to own the other country. So it should be about the people, not about the leaders or rulers. Now about the book, if I was to write a book, just a book of my autobiography. If I was to write a book about my politics and my involvement, maybe the title would be President by Accident. Because I never intended to be into this, but look where we are. So maybe that would be the most fitting title. About age. First of all, I'm not a young man. I might look cute. I might seem young, maybe because, like they say, black don't crack. But I'm not so young. I'm 44. Probably old enough to be a dad, right? So I'm not young, and I know, and maybe this should communicate to all of us, that you guys are actually not young yourselves. Our forefathers that earned independence for us were in their early 30s. In their 30s, Milton Obote. Then they were young. Julius Nyerere. You know, they were young. So, history teaches us that actually the younger people are, the better, because they are reminded that whatever they do, good or bad, they will live long enough to either benefit from what they did or to pay the price of the mess they did. Maybe most African leaders today are misbehaving and doing all these things because they know they're going to die soon anyway. So they won't be around to pay for the mess that they create. And history has shown us that all these leaders that have done their countries proud they did that in their youthful years. So the best time to serve your country is in your youthful years. It inspires the young people to know that they're not too young to do good to their countries. It reminds people that young energy is beneficial, and like I say, they know that they are going to live long enough to benefit from the good decisions that they're making and prepare for the bad decisions and actions that they do make. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. This is the closing point. Our distinguished guests, colleagues, members of our vibrant African Studies community, as we come to close this remarkable evening, I would like to extend our deepest gratitude to our distinguished guest, Bobi Wine. As you rightly say, elected legitimate president for sharing his time, his experience, and his reflection with us, for encouraging us that we have the resources and also the means that we start. We need to start getting involved from where we are. So thank you once again. I would also like to sincerely thank Dr. Anita Plummer, Director of African Studies Graduate Director and Director of Women's Center at Howard University, and Milton Alimadi, PhD student at Howard, but also a journalist, author, writer of several books on African politics. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For having such rich, engaging discussion and for helping us unpack the complexities of contemporary African politics with clarity and depth. On behalf of African Studies Graduate Student Association, I extend our appreciation to our partners, Department of African Studies, Center for African Studies at Howard University, for their continued support in making space like this possible. Events such as these remain and remind us that universities are not only places of learning, but also areas of dialogue, critical engagement, and intellectual courage and motivation. This evening has reaffirmed something important, that African political agency is dynamic, contested, and deeply interconnected with global conversations, as we clearly showed us in politics and also other African countries' politics is connected with Ugandan politics, as we also pointed out, is connected with the regional politics in Eastern and Southern Africa. As students, scholars, and practitioners, we have both the responsibility and the opportunity to gauge the realities with rigor, integrity, and purpose. Let us carry forward the insights from tonight, not only in our academic work, but also in how we engage the world beyond this room and beyond our university. Thank you all for your presence, your thoughtful participation, and your commitment to building a more informed, engaged community. We now invite you to stay briefly if our distinguished guests has time for pictures, informal interaction, and networking. Thank you.
How about you? Would you like to have him come back after he's sworn in one day?
Yes, please. We would love that. Right? Yes.